Join us.
Hey folks, thanks for tuning in to another video, not a review, but I wanted to talk about a little custom I recently had a shot at. I'm actually really pleased with the outcome, so I want to share this one a little bit. I came across a post by Bill Higa in a Vintage Collection Facebook group, the Vintage Collection Facebook group, and he did a little bit of a custom on the new Luke Skywalker, which I have reviewed, and basically he took the sad old grumpy looking Death Star escape Luke from VCO1, like 2010, 2011 I suppose, and yeah, he did a custom with the new Luke, and I had grabbed a couple. I'm going to be grabbing a couple more of these Lukes, because this one here I've given the deleted scene look with the bucket hat and the poncho. But as you can see, he's got the standard belt underneath. If you want to take a closer look at that figure, I did do a review. I'll leave that in a link at the end, as it pops up at the end of the video. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this version of Death Star Escape Luke Skywalker, because I'm really quite happy and blown away by what Bill was able to do, and the inspiration that led to me giving it a crack. And so I thought I've got a nice boiling mug of water here, and I thought we'd do a little bit of a boil and pop, and I'll that way I can actually show you a little bit better on how I put this thing together. There are a couple of different ways I could have done it. I could have used a standard Stormtrooper belt, but I didn't want to have to sacrifice a Stormtrooper. Whereas the Luke, yeah, he was a little bit dated, and it was offering a chance at a better looking Luke. And it actually worked out to be quite good, so I thought I'd give you a quick look. I've given him a Stormtrooper Blaster too. I was using the grappling hook in the other hand. I've just left that on the shelf now. The grappling hook that comes with the VC Vintage Collection 1.0. I can't remember what exact number he was in the line, but yeah, you can sort of see how nicely that fits. Yeah, I'll definitely be explaining how I do it. The comlink, I've actually glued that in place. That was a little peg in the side. I just felt I'm not going to display him with the comlink. And yeah, what it does, it still retains the peg hole from the new Luke to put his lightsaber hilt on the shirt like that. Did have to lose the other side. We did have the little peg hole on that side as well, so we lost that, but it was a noble sacrifice for the greater good. And yeah, this Luke in Vintage Collection in general is going to be, a hard one to top. It's been a long time coming, and yeah, Hasbro did a fantastic job. So I'm going to boil this one up. We're going to move the accessories. Let's just do that now while I'm talking. We'll take off those accessories. That's pretty much it. So I'm going to stick him in a mug. I'm going to pop that torso off, and we'll take a look, and I'll show you exactly what I did. Alright, so he's been sitting in this mug of water for maybe a minute. It's fresh out the kettle, freshly boiled. So it's nice and hot. Plastic should be nice and soft. You should be able to... It is very hot. Pop that. I think he's going to have to go in for a little bit longer, upside down. Alright, so yeah, I've left him for another 30 seconds. Obviously you want to get it while the water's still hot, but it's just enough to soften up that plastic. Get that joint to pop out of his torso. There we go. So there you got it. You got the ball and the socket there. I'm actually going to toss the top half of Luke back in the water, so he's going to be nice and soft for when we dig him out. So yeah, here we go. This is the belt. So basically, if I get a little pointer, I'll use his lightsaber. Get a little bit more light on the figure itself so we can see a little bit nicer. There we go. So yeah, basically I took the belt off, and yeah, the interior of that belt sort of sat in around the waist, so I sort of had to slice that out was almost cutting the innards out of the belt. You can see there, you can almost sort of see where I've cut along the inside just to widen that belt out a little bit. And then basically what I did is I took that bottom piece from this loop. What I did with this loop is basically sliced underneath the belt using an X-Acto knife, being very careful. I even heated up the plastic a little bit so it was a little bit softer. Sliced around all the way under the belts. I had to go under the belt there, and this is where I had to take the hole out. Is I did have to slice, I had to go a little bit further, so it fits underneath the Stormtrooper belt. I probably took it in about there, sliced down, and probably about there. You can get it out of the way, and probably there, and slice down. And obviously I had to sacrifice that little bit of a belt there, but so when it joined up underneath the Stormtrooper belt, as you can see, it made it small enough to connect, and just separated the front flap and the back flap a little bit. Still joined at the other side, but just to be able to bring that together, get that little bit of a gap there, it just meant that when I stuck that underneath the belt, it just gave it a little bit of room, was able to snugly fit. And then basically piecing it together and gluing it together is I took the I'm going to call it the skirt, and I glued that around. As you can just see in the gap there's a little bit of room for wriggle. There's about 4 or 5 mils, not even that. A little bit of room underneath there, underneath where that belt line is. I stuck that down, made sure that was all nicely and tight, nicely fitting, and then I was able to heat up the belt and then just sort of stretch it out a little bit and sort of just pop it over the edges of the skirt. So it's just over the edges. Even that, I think I did a nice straight line there. So that's actually butted up right onto it. Whereas I think in certain sections it sort of does go just over it. A little spot there. It does go over the skirt. You can kind of see there where it's sort of sitting just above. For the most part, it looks like it's sort of tucked under the belt. You can sort of see there, it's sort of tucked under a little bit through the front. And that was the most important bit, is making sure it was sitting up nice and flush on the belt. So once that I'd heated up and got it to flex enough, I then just sort of a few little spots of super glue and just glued that down. And of course with the comm link there as well. And then basically the job was just to, I'm trying to fish out the other loop without torching my hands. I might have to do this with 2 hands. There we go. So basically, with the Luke torso all heated up, just pop that back on. Don't be afraid to use a little bit of force just to get that on. And there we have it. So it sits just in the right place. You can still get that torso joint to move around. Makes the shirt look like it's naturally sort of tucked into the belt. And it makes it look like that seam. So that seam comes down his shirt there, and it looks like it separates at a natural line there when the figure's straight. Obviously it's going to look out of whack when you do that, but even then there's a little bit of a hook around that, sort of loops around the side there, so it does look like it continues along, which is only a small thing, but it works as well down this side. If you sort of see the curvatures of the fabric, the way it sort of tucks down and then separates, his shirt sort of separates under there. And even on the back, those sort of natural folds, which, you know, all credit goes to the sculpting team at Hasbro that have been able to get that looking super nice and natural. So when it does sort of sit under the belt, it looks like the belt sort of wrapped tightly around his waist. And yeah, that's basically how I did it. So as I mentioned, Bill in the Facebook group, he briefly explained how he did it. I'm very grateful for that, because it just gave me that little bit of confidence to be able to do it myself. So and then we have Death Star Luke. So I hope you've enjoyed a look at that, folks. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And, see you again very soon. May the Force be with you always.